This week on The Wonders of Watercolour, I'm going to show you how to paint this really juicy watermelon with line and wash in easy to follow steps. Okay, so I've already done a simple outline here, and today I've decided to use mixed media paper, which makes blending an absolute breeze. The brushes are from my set from Craftimo, and I'm just using a handful of colours today, as you can see here, and I'll talk you through them as we work through. Now, this exercise is just meant to be a really chilled, relaxed painting tutorial, so there's no pressure here to get it absolutely right. If you're worried about drawing the outline, don't worry, because I provide you with a free traceable, which I'll tell you about a little bit later on. So to start with, I'm using a really kind of muted buff colour here. On this occasion, I'm using Butterfly from Deep Deep Light, but you can use any pale sort of taupey colour, kind of like a neutral colour here. Something like a buff titanium would work just as well, or even a watered down lemon shade. So we're kicking off by applying this straight onto the paper like this, just loosely following the outline. I'm using my number 8 pointed brush from my set from Craftimo to start with because it has a nice fine tip, but we're not about detail today, we're all about just having fun with watercolour. When this is dry, I'm using my blender brush just to soften the outside edge a little bit. I found that it was just looking a little bit too sharp because I started my application by working wet on dry. With this wash dry, I'm now adding a really watery mix of the next colour. You want to use a pinky red tone for this with a lot of water, so I'm mixing up a colour called Mayan, again from Deep Deep Light, as are all of the colours today, and I'm just using this watery mix to apply it to the inside area of the watermelon like this. I'm not being too fussy today. I'm just adding my colours and just enjoying the process. We have Mayan mixed with a little bit of butterfly there, and I'm just dropping this into the wet paint, as you can see, just to add a bit more variation with the colour, using my number 8 brush. Now, what I love about this paper from De La Rowney is it's a mixed media paper, and if you do struggle with blending watercolour, it does make the process super easy. Now, you'll see on this bottom segment of the watermelon that I've just added it wet on wet to the buff coloured mix that I've got there, and you can see how it blends nicely into that colour. This is where wet and wet really comes into its own, and you can see the difference between the two application processes I'm using, and it's entirely up to you which one you use. It's all about having fun today and just practicing your watercolour paintings. The 4 colours I'm using, as you can see swatched out there, are Butterfly, Masha's Green, River and Mayan. All of these colours are from Deep Deep Light, but remember to use whichever colours that you've got within your own set. But if you did want to treat yourself to these gorgeous handmade paints, if you wanted a 10% discount, head over to their website and quote Deep Deep Ray. Everything's now dry, so watercolour is all about building up your colours slowly and carefully once the layers are dry. But before I do anything, once again, I'm using my blender brush, which absolutely comes into its own here. You'll see how I'm using it damp on this mixed media paper, helping it blur into the edges of the dry paint. This means that I don't have any hard edges, and it softens that line beautifully. I'm now going over it again with a second wash. This colour is Mayan, the same as before, and using a lot of water to just merge it into that existing paint. Just applying the paint in a really casual motion. I'm not being too careful today. I'm just applying it where I think this colour might be hitting the paper and just blending it in with my brush. Once I have a rough idea where that paint's going to go, I add a little bit more Mayan, just dropping it into the damp paint just to give it a more watercolour feel. Adding a bit more of that Mayan, you can see the beautiful vibrancy of this colour, but in this watery form you get this beautiful pink tone. Adding plenty of water to make sure that this merges into the paper, and I really should have taped down my paper onto my watercolour board today, but I just wanted to get this painting done. Now, at the start of this video, I mentioned that we have a free outline if you want to trace it down, although it is a fairly simple outline today. And to grab that, you just need to go over to Patreon and join our free membership level, where you can grab our outlines, our weekly outlines where applicable, over on there, to join in with our YouTube tutorials, and it's absolutely free to join, no obligation, and you can just grab that and it'll be delivered directly to your inbox every single week, whenever we use an outline to trace from. We do, of course, have a paid membership level for Patreon, so let's just take a look to see what you've got if you really fancy leveling up your watercolor painting game. When you join Patreon, you will have access to exclusive content that you just won't find here on YouTube. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just dipping your brush into botanical watercolor, you may want to join us here on Patreon, where the magic happens. And with Patreon's new collections tab, it makes accessing the tutorials super easy. When you join us here on Patreon, we dive deep into the art of botanical watercolors, from vibrant blooms to fine detail, and I'm here to guide you every step of the way. We have 3 membership levels to suit your skill and budget, and we even have a mentorship and coaching level, so if you're serious about developing your skills, then this could be the level for you. And now you can join Patreon for free, which will give you access to all of our YouTube traceables, which will be delivered weekly to your inbox, so no more scrolling through for the images. So if you are ready to embark on a watercolor adventure, unlock exclusive content, and join a community that celebrates the beauty of botanicals, hit that join button, which I will link in the description. So we won't find any of the Patreon tutorials here on our YouTube channel. So if you did want to check us out, do take a look. You can leave and join at any time, but like I said, they are written exclusively for my patrons. We do, of course, have over 200 free tutorials here on YouTube. If this kind of painting is your thing, then you may want to consider subscribing by hitting that little bell notification, so you'll be notified every Tuesday when I upload new content and you won't miss out. If you are enjoying this video, could I ask you please to hit that like button underneath? It's a way of supporting me and I really appreciate it. You can see how I'm just using my number 8 brush here and just taking it over some of the areas just to merge those colours together. I've decided to add another colour here called Asphalt, but you can use any brown or black colour that you have just to add a little bit of detail to where the pips are going to be. All of the materials I'm using today, by the way, I will link in the description box, along with the brushes that I'm using. I designed these with a collaboration from Craftamo. At the time of filming, we still had a few left, so if you did want to treat yourself to those, then head over to Craftamo. I will link the website in the description box, along with the website to Deep Deep Light if you want to treat yourself to these amazing watercolor paints. They are handmade from 2 lovely ladies based in Latvia, and I absolutely adore them. So the paintbrushes come in a set of 5, and like I said, at the time of filming we still have a few sets left, but they are limited edition, so if you did want to grab them, then you may need to be fairly swift, because we may run out of stock. I'm using the number 2 brush from my set here to add a mixture of Masha's green to begin with. That's that lovely yellowy green colour that you see, and then I'm adding River, which is the darker colour, to certain areas of it, just to drop in here and there. We're not being too fussy today. As I said earlier on, we're just applying paint onto paper and see where it takes us. So remember, you can grab that free outline over on Patreon, and for my paid members, you don't have to join the free membership level. You will of course get that as my gift to you. You can see I'm just taking that Masha's green to the outside edge where the rind or the skin of the watermelon would be, and I'm just dropping in a tiny bit of the River just on the inside edge there, and then taking it gradually to the outside edge. I've gone back to my number 8 brush just to add another chunk of that Masha's green, taking it over the edge there. You could use any bright green colours that you have, of course. You don't have to use the same as me, but if you did want to treat yourself, as I said, I will link it in the description box, and you can quote the code DEEPRAY for 10% discount off all of their gorgeous watercolour paints. I'm adding this colour wet on wet, so that lets the colour merge gently into the existing wash, as you can see here. This gives the paint a much softer look. So adding it here to the top part of the watermelon skin, and just taking it on that edge there, and just gently blending it in with a brush with a tiny bit of River on the top. If I am going too quickly for you, you can of course slow this video down in your settings, and you can go at your own speed. I'm just doing a voiceover today, which I haven't done for quite a while. I normally do my videos speaking as I'm filming, but today I'm doing a voiceover just in case you find it a little bit too quick. I know I talk fast, but I have to keep up with what I'm doing on screen. So I do appreciate that if you're having difficulty keeping up with me chatting away, then you can slow the video down in your settings. But anyway, you can just see what I'm doing here, using that blender brush now to its full capacity to blend it into the paper. Because I've used a mixed media paper today as opposed to the Arches paper that I normally use, as I said, it does make blending very, very easy. So if blending is something that you struggle with when you're using watercolor, then do check out mixed media papers. Particularly this one, it's fantastic for blending, and it really does help you merge those watercolors together if that's something that that troubles you, as it did me when I started watercolor painting. I found that I was getting my paint sticking to the paper, and I really didn't like that look. So you might want to try something like this if it's something that you struggle with. So again, just adding this paint right onto the watercolor paper like this, onto the mixed media paper, just using a kind of wiggly motion to apply it with my number 2 brush. You can, of course, draw these freehand if you want to. You don't have to trace them down, but many of my viewers like to trace down, as do I, because it just saves you sort of worrying about the drawing element. Again, taking my blender brush and just using that damp to merge those colours together. It really is so easy using this brush. When I designed it, I wanted it to have a curved tip, which makes that blending process very, very easy, and it's also great for lifting out or maybe sorting out any errors that you've got if maybe you've gone outside the pencil line. You can see me here using it damp again just to lift out some of that colour, just to give the watermelon a little bit more of a textured look. Again, because I've used mixed media paper, it does make the job really, really easy. Very gently lifting out that colour. And I'm back to my number 2 brush to apply a little bit of that Masha's green to the edge there and blending it in. Picking up a little bit more river. You could use Perulean green or something like that in its place. You don't have to use these colours, but they are rather special. And just add that in and blend it in the same way as before. Using that blender brush just to make a few tweaks here and there. Just using it damp. I decided to do an outline using a 005. This is a Fineliner pen, and this is a permanent marker. This is waterproof and bleed proof. Just go around the frame that I've drawn there, giving it a double outline to make it look just really nice. I like that look. Going around the melon, what I'm doing here is just following the lines where the paint has settled. This gives it a really illustrative look, and I really think it looks rather nice, going around each element one by one. Of course, your paint has to be absolutely dry, and I'm going around the little markings that you can see here where the paint has settled. Now, I was a little bit too hasty later on. You'll see me using a number 0.6 pen, which is slightly thicker, because I did, I went in too soon, too quickly, and I got my pen wet, so I used another pen. But this is just the right size. I think this 0.005 pen gives a really nice sharp outline if that's what you enjoy using. So this is a 005. This one's from Etcher, but anyone will do. I'm going around the pips here, and then I'm going to colour them in with that black pen. I mean, I could have just drawn them in at the start, but I did add the asphalt because I was going to give them a little bit more depth. But I thought I'd carry on in this manner because I think it's quite a cool look. I'm just going to continue the process until it's completed. So do stay right until the end. I'm going to stop talking and let you listen to some relaxing music. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and do check out those links in the description. And I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the video, stay until the end so you can see the finished piece, and I'll see you next week.